again guys, it's Captain Invisible here and welcome to another online battle that will showcase some more pike action for you. Before, when on my previous video should I say, as France, I said that France was the only faction in Hyperion to have pikemen. That's completely wrong, because I forgot about Scotland. So, yeah, Scotland can bring pikemen. In fact, Scotland can bring more pikemen than France. It's got access, and Scotland's pikemen are not mercenaries as well, so there's always that. So, yeah, Scotland can bring these Highland pikemen, and it's also got access to the cheapest pikemen in the game, I believe, the Scots Pike Militia. I believe they're the cheapest. I can't remember off the top of my head how much they cost. We'll have to check that out at the end of the battle. So yeah, I decided to try out pikemen again as Scotland, because Scotland really doesn't have that much else going for it, really. So I brought 6 pikemen in total, and I deployed them double line in these sort of these 3 blocks of pike units. And the goal for this was to have 2 on my flanks, like I did with the French battle I did earlier, and deploy 1 in the centre to ward off cavalry charges down the centre. If cavalry charges come in here, they'll be caught by these 2 pikemen with a bit of a shuffling. So that was the plan, and as I said, trying out the double line formation again. And with these pikemen being so cheap, I gave them some morale upgrades, because these Scottish pikemen, especially these militia ones, don't have too great morale. So I find that they're cheap enough just to shove some morale upgrades on and a couple of defense upgrades, and you're good to go. So yeah, a nice formation. The one thing I wanted to mention as well about these pike formations is you really do need to protect the flanks. So you need a heavy load of cavalry on one flank to help defend your pikemen's own flanks. And again, on this side, I've got a mailed knight who can protect sort of this flank if my ally gets split off, if we get split up down here. So that was the plan. Pikemen protecting my heavy infantry and my dismounted feudal knights to just go in through these gaps and hit the enemy flanks with some missiles. I just brought these noble Highland archers because this was a Hyperion battle again, and I knew that France wouldn't really be able to bring much missile power down on the Scottish, except for these French archers. So bringing archers of Scotland isn't a bad idea in the high period. So I brought 4 of those guys, and then as I say, for cavalry, Scotland's cavalry is a bit poor, so I just stuck with some mailed knights and some border horse just to run strikes against the enemy, and just hoped that that would be enough to defeat the enemy cav. So we'll just go into the battle. My idea for these pikemen was, or my idea for the pikemen in the last battle as well, I've got them both grouped up. So I've got 2 units here in a group, 2 units here in a group, and 2 units here in a group, and then the rest of my army's in a group with this cav in a group as well. So I've got sort of 5 or 6 different groups. 3, 4, 5, yeah, 5 groups. This load, my cavalry, and then these separate pike formations. So an interesting thing to note about pikemen is I think these guys are in guard formation. So I think these guys are going to hold their formation. These guys are not in guard formation. So these guys are pretty much going to speed ahead of the rest of the pikemen. And that's an interesting thing to note. Pikemen seem to be faster when out of guard formation. So that's good to know for future reference. So as I say, I moved them all up separately. the main army moves up in one big bulk, and then my pikemen move up separately in separate groups with separate move orders. And because my pikemen are protecting my flanks, I need to draw the enemy cav here, so that I can get some archer fire and just basically draw the enemy into this area. Those French archers have ridiculous range as well. Really are supremely powerful. So yeah, I've managed to get the enemy cav bogged down over here, where my archers can start firing, and my archers will be well protected by this unit of pikemen. The enemy cav looks like it charges into my archers, but unfortunately these noble knights are now going to get trapped by pikemen and mailed knights, and it's not going to be a fight that they're going to win at all. So having pikemen on this flank has managed to severely weaken the cavalry potential on this side. So as I say, Scottish cav is really poor, and it looks like I've suffered way too many losses on this flank with my cavalry. Cavalry is so important in these pike-related assaults, because you really do need them to hold off the enemy cav from flanking your pike formation. Although this was a good move. You know, he charged into my archers and has managed to get his cav slaughtered on the front of them. This is what pikemen are good at. Pikemen are good at making your opponent pay for his micromanagement mistakes. In my earlier French battle, I had my crossbowmen in front of my pikemen, and here I had some Scottish archers in front of the pikemen, and all I needed to do was withdraw them back and have the enemy cav impale themselves on my pike formation. Just like here, the enemy cav came in to defeat my archers retreated back, and he ended up getting stuck into a fight against the front of my pikemen. There is some damage here, but as it's negligible to a loss of noble pikemen. Another thing I've noticed people do online is they seem to throw units like these spear militia and even some of these heavy chivalric knights against the front of pikemen. That normally works with the when it's just one pike unit, but as you'll see from multiple pike units, it's just going to get cavalry. It's just going to get infantry impaled on multiple pike units. Now, fortunately, spearmen get through these pikes, which is unfortunate. Fortunately, I've got units behind though that can do some damage. And over here again, the pike formation just breaks up completely, but the unit behind will get any stragglers from behind. I mean, the center formation is definitely the better one. Holding off these chivalric knights is invaluable, because this is my center. Without this, my army is going to fall to pieces. But these Scots pike militia just really do hold off these chivalric knights, and this is the advantage of these cheaper pikemen. Both of these pikemen units, with all these upgrades, cost about as much as an unupgraded chivalric knight. That's an unupgraded one without any armor or attack upgrades at all, and that's pretty impressive, because this formation is also going to stop cavalry. It's going to hold off just about any infantry formation if it's held well, and it seems to be holding okay on this side. But as I say, over here my pike formation seems to have broken up and is sort of all over the place. So you really do need to micromanage them a lot. But as I say, against cavalry, it seems to be
good tidings.
The enemy cavalry is coming in and doing strikes, and it's just getting caught on these pikemen with some cavalry assault, and it's getting the cavalry killed in areas like this. And again over here, it's all down to weakening enemy cav, and having your pikemen on the flanks allows you to protect formations like this that seem to be that are out here in front, trying to surround the enemy. So the French are still struggling to break through this front formation, and now with my feudal knights surrounding these chivalric knights, it's only a matter of time before the entire formation breaks. And these pikemen have held extremely well on this flank. Unfortunately, you're about to see the disadvantage of pikemen, which is basically supreme cavalry numbers, and unfortunately I've not managed to get rid of these French archers yet, and they're going to really rip apart any pike formation in this vicinity. So you really have to watch out for pikemen, especially around cavalry, because without cav support your pikemen are going to die, and I know that's a weird scenario to be in, but as you can see, these pikemen are just walking into the cavalry. They're not putting down the pikes or anything until they manage to come into contact with at least one unit. So a cavalry charge with moving pikemen is going to really destroy them, and there's not a lot you can do about that except for holding them still, like these guys are. But then your enemy is just going to be able to flank and disengage from the pikemen. Speaking of disengaging from pikemen, it is insanely easy to pull away from a pike formation like this. If you got your infantry stuck on this pike formation, you can just pull out and you won't lose too many losses. Whereas if you got stuck on the front of a feudal knight unit, you're going to suffer heavy losses trying to get out of an infantry fight with them, because they're just going to pursue you and keep engaging you. As you can see, it only takes a few units to really destroy a pike, a group of pikemen when they're not stood still. So yeah, the remainder of this battle is just going to be the Holy Roman Empire disassembling the Scottish army here. With all these pikemen, it's hard to really stop all of these cavalry, and as soon as you click an attack order, what's going to happen is your pikes are going to turn around and just walk into the enemy cav without putting down the pikes. So they're still extremely buggy pikemen, but there are strategies to using them. There are tactics on using them, and it's just a case of practice. But as I say, it's going to turn into a mess really quickly with all these cavalry about, plus the French archers. They're going to disassemble an army like this in no time at all. As you can see, the pikemen just can't get the pikes down quick enough. You really do need the pike formations within your formation, stood still, ready to receive the cavalry. You need to put your pikemen into a scenario. Into a scenario where they cannot. The enemy has no choice but to attack your pikemen. As I say, placing them on these flanks is a really great idea to stop enemy cav from having to outflank you, because there was a cav fight over here, there was the pikemen here, there was pikemen in the centre here, there was pikemen here, and there was a unit
Saint
of...
Andrew protect us! Our general lies slain upon the battlefield.
And there was a unit of cav all the way over here, so flanking was not an option unless he wanted to go all the way around this way, try and get through this gap, and avoid this cav unit, and it just led to making his life harder than it actually should have been, and it was these micro mistakes that lost him the cav fight. These cavalry could have been of use elsewhere, and that's the beauty of pikemen. It's no offense to the French player, it's just a simple fact that this kind of strategy works against cavalry on the flanks and in the centre. There was no cavalry in the centre, so there was pikemen in the centre as well, so there's no striking for cavalry in the centre. And it makes factions like Scotland easier to use against cav. But Scotland in itself is not a great faction, and the loss of the cavalry of Scotland really does hurt you, and it stops you from being able to really do much in terms of protecting your army. You end up getting surrounded like this and disassembled quite easily by superior cavalry factions like the Holy Roman Empire. So yeah, Scotland's not the best faction. I prefer France when it comes to these pike formations, but I just wanted to give Scotland a go with it, and it did, it proved useful in some parts. But those the lack of elite cavalry really does hurt Scotland, and it allowed the whole Roman Empire to really gain the upper advantage in the battle. So I'm not going to talk too much about these statistics, but what I want to do is show you the pikemen. So the pikemen are all down here. So from here. So one got 15 kills. Again, it was probably one on the flanks that was getting shot to bits or was being charged and destroyed. In fact, it was probably the formation. It was either one of the formations that was in guard mode and obviously didn't get many kills because it was in guard mode, or it was one of the formations that took that cavalry charge and destroyed that basically half that cavalry unit, and then got shredded by archers and things. So who knows? One of the other Highland pikemen, it must have been one at the forefront of the combat because it got 95 kills, which is pretty impressive for one of these pike units. Really is, because they are pretty cheap, and for it to get 95 kills is not bad. It's in a decent position if you're getting 95 kills with it. It's in the correct position it should be. And again, 72 kills again. These two units, I don't know where they were on the battlefield, but they were in the ideal place for being pikemen. You can always tell the unit was doing its best when it gets kills like this. You can't really expect anything more from these pikemen, and I'm surprised that it got 95 kills, to be honest. So there's that. Another Highland pikeman got 22. Again, these two were probably the ones that were on guard mode, and these two were the ones that were pushing into the formations. That seems to be the more logical scenario, because you're going to get more kills from the ones that are pushing forward rather than the ones in guard mode. And if I had the micro to then switch out the guard mode and start pushing forward with the other unit, these two may have got more kills, but as it happens, as the ones that were pushing forward probably got the most kills in the battle. And the centre formation of the Scottish Pike Militia, one got 44, again quite respectable for a unit that cost practically nothing, and then 22 for this unit that was probably, as I say, in guard mode or you're doing something else. As I say, it's hard to tell which units were which, but judging by these stats, you can kind of tell either way. But as I say, unfortunately, it was the cavalry that let this army down. Scotland's cavalry is not great, and these cavalry numbers are not great for these types of units. But it's the best I could expect from them against chivalric knights and things, noble knights. So yeah, Scotland really needs decent cavalry, otherwise it's not going to do well with these types of in these types of scenarios. Because even though pikemen are good against cavalry, they are not the best choice against cavalry. You need more flexibility, and the enemy's not going to charge his cav into pikemen. But as I've shown, and I've demonstrated this on the other one as well, the enemy will charge headlong into pike formations with infantry, and that's what I found these formations to be useful against. Being that useful against infantry, which your opponent may think is going to bug out your pikemen. We've all done it. We've all thought, pikemen are crap. Let's throw infantry at them. They'll bug out. They'll raise the pikes, and then we can hack them down to bits. It's what happens. We've learnt that that's what happens to pikemen. So these formations are there to sort of train people out of sending infantry headlong into pikemen, because if you charge headlong into these pikemen, you end up getting stuck, basically. Like, those chivalric knights were just stuck against these Scots pike militia, and had I had the intelligence to do so, I could have easily just completely outflanked those chivalric knights and attack them from the rear, as opposed to trying to drive through my own formation. So what I'll do is I'll jump to the custom battles thing, and we'll take a look at the price difference between chivalric knights and the Scots pike militia, and just go for a scenario on how to deploy them. So I shall see you in a bit. Hello again, guys. So we've got we're going to set up a quick scenario. It's going to be high period, which is what this battle was. Just on the grassy plains, and the money we used was for the last battle was 8,500, which I thought was an extremely fun amount of money to use. In fact, no, it wasn't 8,500. Let's just stick with 10,000 for now. Yeah, that was the last battle, the one where I was playing as France. We used 8,500. So this is what you get as Scotland. You know, a couple of pikemen, the feudal knights. Not great cavalry. You do get the feudal knights, but I don't find them as good as the mailed knights, in my opinion. But what you do get is these cheap pikemen, and they cost 150, which I'm pretty sure is cheaper than pike militia. I think pike militia are about 190. I may be mistaken, but I'm pretty sure they are 190. So they are probably the cheapest pikemen in the game. These Scots pike militia, and I had an attack and a chevron and a defense on them. And two of these guys cost about 500. Yeah, all in all, about 516 money's worth. So that is cheaper than, even cheaper than chivalric knight at 610. So this formation should beat this unit. In fact, let us just jump into a quick battle with these units, because I also want to show you how I set up my my pikemen as well, and see if there's anything I can improve as well on the formation. Now the AI will probably be a bit sneaky and try outflank, so we're just going to have to deal with that, but we shall just deploy. So I usually deploy pikemen about three ranks deep. It's deep enough to do some damage, without making all the units bug out. And I usually put the front one on guard mode and the back one off guard mode, and then I group them. So what should happen theoretically is the front unit on guard mode should absorb the enemy charge, and these guys are gonna, for some reason it kills the front row of men. I don't quite understand why, but it kind of does, so we'll have to deal with that. But it will protect this back row, which will then start pushing through the formation and start getting into a scrap with the chivalric knights. So we'll just fast forward it and have these chivalric knights throw themselves against the pike line. So chivalric knights come in, they get stuck on the front row, and then this second row should be pushing through now. And the second row starts to push through, get stuck into these chivalric knights. Unfortunately, it looks like the formation's breaking up of one of these. It's probably the attacking unit. But this is generally what happens. The pikemen push so far forward that they then get bugged and kind of a bit strung out. But as you can see, they are pushing quite deep into these Chivalric Knights. Let's put those guys in guard mode and see what happens when these guys push. So now the back row is going to push, and the front row is hopefully going to... Oops. Yeah, remind me later. Sorry, that's probably ruined my my recording. That jump. It jumped to the desktop, so I've had to just reset it. But as you can see, these pikemen are now going to push through and get stuck into these Chivalric Knights. And this is surprising. I didn't expect this at all, to be honest. I know I mentioned that Scots Pike Militia would be able to hold Chivalric Knights, but this is not holding at all. This is Scots Pike Militia, so this is 2 units that are cheaper than 1 unit of Chivalric Knights, defeating Chivalric Knights. That is incredible. And that's basically the idea behind pikemen. I know there's been quite a lot of videos regarding that same strategy. But I just wanted to show you how cost-effective pikemen can be. And in battles where you don't have the money to buy 4 units of Chivalric Knights and 4 units of Feudal Knights, you're gonna want pikemen, because their cost effectiveness against both cavalry and infantry it's worth having. I demonstrated it in that France vs Byzantine battle where my pikemen just pushed straight through the Byzantine infantry line, and I've demonstrated it there that even Chivalric Knights cannot stand against a double line pike formation. But as I say, the disadvantages of pikemen are just there's too many of them. The flanks are obviously weak. They take a lot of micromanagement to use, and they are a lot of them are extremely vulnerable to missiles. The only few that I think aren't are the Flemish pikemen, maybe the Aventuros, and the Scottish heavy pike militias and noble pikemen. But even then, because they don't have shields, any armor-piercing bolts are gonna really hurt those types of pike units. So yeah, I hope you enjoyed that little insight into pikemen. Hopefully I'll be able to find some more battles with pikemen. But these 2 battles were just a taster of what pikemen can do, and I hope that this has helped people explore pikemen a bit more, because they're not a bad unit. If you can use them right, as I've shown, they can beat more expensive infantry, and they are really good on the flanks against cavalry, but they do have significant weaknesses, and they need to be addressed in battle. You have to get rid of your enemy's missile strength with your cavalry. You need to have cavalry's dominance and defeat your enemy's cav. You need to just support your pikemen as much as your pikemen are supporting your own lines. But yeah, very fun unit to use, and I hope that more people use them, and you have a good go with them. So yeah, thank you very much for watching, guys, and hopefully, as I say, this has given me a good insight into pikemen, and hopefully I'll see you all on the battlefield wielding giant 2-foot long pikes. So I'll see you later.